My name is Duane Forrester. I work for a small startup on the West Coast called Microsoft. If you haven't heard of us before, you may shortly. Along the way, I wrote 2 books up there. I'm halfway through my 3rd one. And after all this is over, if you think anything I've said is at all useful and you want to track me down, I'm on Twitter all the time, pretty much 24/7 if I'm connected. Currently, well, I used to run Webmaster Tools, and then I didn't work for the company for 2 months, and then I came back to the company, and I kind of sort of help run Webmaster Tools now, but I do a few other things. I help train speakers for going out for events like this. I work on a lot of app and developer stuff, so APIs and things like that. And I do quite a bit of future-facing work. The technology that is coming up today, how people are interacting with it, how it's changing their expectations, and that means a change in behavior. With that change in behavior, businesses need to pay attention to understand, hey, why is money flowing the way it's flowing today, and how will it flow in the future? You guys have all heard about Google's self-driving cars, right? Has anybody not heard about these things? Right? They're like the epitome of cute death. That's what I'm predicting. They're super cute. I'm not exactly sure how I feel about this. You know, I still have vehicles with shifters, and I like that. But the cool thing about this is last week they announced that they expect to see cars on roads in the next 2 to 5 years, which means people like us will be driving them. Nevada is a state that has approved the use of self-driving automobiles, as is California. Oregon, as is typical for Oregon, hasn't decided yet. Washington's waiting to decide where all the money goes, and then it'll go that way. So that's pretty much it. So yeah, let's get into this stuff. All right. So these are the 3 hottest trends that we're facing for 2015. Now, if you're in this room, you're probably looking at this going, I saw all those coming. The reality, though, is the general marketplace didn't see any of this coming. Yeah, you knew somebody who had a Fitbit, and they used it for about 4 weeks, and now it's in a drawer somewhere, and that's a general trend. Now, I referenced my band earlier, and you might be thinking that I'm literally on a bandwagon because I work for Microsoft and I have this product. This is 200 of my personal dollars on my wrist because this, while it can track fitness stuff, I use it for being able to filter through Cortana on my phone whose text messages reach me. So only my wife can reach me when my phone is in my pocket and my armband will buzz. I can filter emails from my boss. I can get payments through Starbucks if I want. I can do these things that are way beyond tracking my number of steps and my heart rate and all that exercise stuff. That's cool stuff, don't get me wrong, and it's useful stuff. But you have to make a product that is useful for more areas of somebody's everyday life in order to truly have staying power. This is our attempt at that. I think it's going to work. I know it's going to work for me. We'll see how it works out. You've all been hearing about the Internet of Things, you know, everything has it, right? That little chip right there in dude's hand, you know, Intel has been producing, or it just released this at CES now, and it's like the world's smallest chip for wearables. And it is super, super thin, super small, fits almost everything. This thing up here, obviously there's a watch there, you see that? Does anybody know what that is? That watch? Okay, that's a Mont Blanc watch. All right, I collect watches. This is a fairly high-end brand. The watch is not a smartwatch. Mont Blanc makes a smartwatch band that you can put on any watch. That's a clever move in a marketplace where everybody's trying to make the nicest smartwatch. We'll see how it works out. The other one there, the gold one, that's actually a piece of jewelry that has smart technology embedded in it, and that little jewel that's on the front of it changes color to tell the wearer an action has happened. You've reached the number of steps for today, it turns green. An email comes in for your mother-in-law, it turns red. You can program it however you like, but you know, you get the idea, right? Up in the top left-hand corner, I don't know if you guys can see it, that's called the Pacify Eye. It is an internet-connected pacifier for your baby. I have no idea why, but all kinds of crazy things get released at CES. 4G in cars. Anybody have this in their car right now? Yeah, this is a pretty big deal. This and telematics. This is amazing. My car and my wife's car both have telematics in them, so I can touch a button, ask a human being to find me the best barbecue in Seattle. They will actually do the search online, come up with all of the rankings, filter it for me, and say, I have 3 options for you. This one's closest, this one's highest rated, this is the least expensive, which would you like? And I say, give me the highest rated, they beam it directly to my car, and then I drive off to that location from wherever I am. The important part of this, it's It's good old-fashioned local and good old-fashioned SEO and reviews that those human beings are drawing that data from to beam to my vehicle. So all of that type of work still pays dividends as we move forward. All right. Local is changing. Everyone, when you start, about 3 years ago or so, local was this notion of, if you're within a mile of me and you look up my business, you will probably convert to me. And that's the concept of local. Today, almost every vehicle being sold new in the North American marketplace and overseas is Bluetooth enabled, which means suddenly I'm doing local searches in my living room before I leave to go downtown and run my errands. This makes me a lot more efficient. And the businesses that work with those systems and are able to actually integrate in them are the ones that are going to show up for me, and those are the ones I'm going to go to. So this concept of mobile is actually moving to mobilized. That is a hot ticket. The Detroit Auto Show was on last week. General Motors announced that pretty much every model they have today is going to be outfitted with that 4G LTE system. And most of the 2014s and a lot of their 2013s are retrofittable with it. This is a big step. When a mass manufacturer like that moves in that direction, that changes people's patterns of behavior. It makes a big difference. Now, I can tell you right now, having used the 3G system that's in my truck, it sucks. We're not quite there yet. It costs me $10 a minute to not really be able to do anything. It was fun for like 3 minutes. And then I said, that's enough of that crap. So we see things, all of this is what's happening today for us. And the ultimate question is, how will these things evolve, right? These are some pretty clever things that we've got here. If you ride a motorcycle, you're probably aware of Scully. It's a helmet that actually has a camera built in the back. But more importantly, it is Bluetooth enabled, and it has a vision piece in the front that the rider can look at, kind of like a heads-up display. And information gets projected there from your phone's Bluetooth. So navigation can be there. Heck, if you're savvy, you might even be able to beam advertisements for your coffee shop to the guy as he's riding down the road. That's some cool stuff. Has anybody heard of Drum Pants? That's actually a startup in San Francisco. Drum Pants is pretty cool. They have sensors that you can embed under your clothing and literally make music by tapping on yourself. So as kinky as that sounds, I grant you, a lot of people are sitting on the bus and they're playing the drums on their knees. Well, now they can actually make studio quality music that is recordable through a MIDI interface to any recording device. So this is something that's going to change a lot of people's accepted, how do I make music? How can I become a musician? It's going to be a pretty cool game changer, hoping it catches on, of course. Tesla, this is kind of one of the leading examples. If you've never seen a Tesla, been in a Tesla, okay, go for a test drive if you can. It's a pretty cool car, I will grant you that. But the technology in it is what's mind-blowing. It's the technology stack that is going to change what's happening. That is essentially the equivalent of a 20-inch monitor in the dash of that car. And it basically mimics your iPhone, plus some additive features in there. So everything you're doing on your phone gets beamed over. I actually have data in one of my other presentations about queries, like searches that Tesla drivers do. And it's really interesting to see their time of day activity. They do a lot more e-commerce shopping on their drive home. Their drive times home are longer. They're actually more interested in querying information and performing e-commerce functions on their drive home than on their way into work in the morning. I don't know if it's the driver doing this or a passenger doing this. We don't know. We just assume it's the passenger, because otherwise, I look at every Tesla slightly afraid of it now. But it's happening around us, right? These are the changes. And I mentioned telematics earlier, and what's really cool about this is, does anybody here have a Garmin navigation unit? You know those little sticky ones you put up on your window, right? Like, did you know you can actually buy access to the Garmin database for your business, and then your logo will show up as people are driving by in that street? You know, so I learned this because I'm driving my wife's new car one day, and I go past Jack in the Boxes on the corner of the street where I always drive, and I'm like, yeah, I get it, Jack in the Box is there, I don't care. And that was like December 27th or so, I kind of clued into it. January 5th, I'm driving back through that same area, and Jack in the Box is gone, but the new Starbucks across the street is there, and the Chase Bank up the road is there. So clearly they run on a fiscal year that swaps over at the beginning of January, and the old advertisers are out and the new advertisers are in. That's an opportunity for local businesses to actually get in there and do this. And what happens is, while this is kind of new right now, and it's a little bit sticky in its execution, over the next 2 to 5 years, that is going to change the expectation of the buyers of vehicles and how they run their errands, how they live their general daily lives. The question that a business has to ask itself is, can I tap into that? How can I be a part of that and be a problem solver along their route? That's going to be a critical part. So I mentioned the self-driving cars. This is what the map looks like right now. I have a similar map for Europe, and Britain, France, Germany are just on the cusp of okaying self-driving cars. Washington is under consideration. Oregon, it didn't pass. California, Nevada, yes. Michigan, interestingly, has passed it, but just about 2 months ago passed a law that says you're not allowed to sell Teslas in the state of Michigan. So I don't know where the hell they're going with this, right? But there you go. That's Michigan for you, right? Florida, I'm all in favor of Florida having self-driving cars because the humans driving them down there are a disaster. So I say start there and migrate out, right? What's really cool about this, though, is you have a captive audience in your car, okay? If you've ever priced an electric car today, the general price point for an electric car starts around $35,000 to $40,000 in the US marketplace. Then you get incentives on top of that to bring your subcompact small car more in line with what the price should actually be. The reality with these things is that when the new cars, the self-driving cars come to market, they will still be priced at that premium price point. So the average consumer may not be the main purchaser. It may be fleet purchases by companies such as Home Depot, who will actually allow you to book a car to drive you to work, but it's got their logo wrapped around it. And inside on the screens, if you want to ride for free, you'll see ads from Home Depot, or you'll see ads for someone else. So there are ways, very simple ways, for those systems to be monetized. And if you talk to kids today, right, and Ford has done this. Ford has asked kids today, what do you want? What features do you want in a car when you go to buy it? And the scary answer to Ford, and GM did the same study, was, we don't want to buy a car. They're expensive. Insurance is expensive. I don't want to have to maintain it. Just not interested. And so that has forced these auto manufacturers to make a wholesale change in how they present their vehicles. This auto show in Detroit this year was the turning point for that. Most of the cars, they're jewel-like. They look like a very polished product. They look like the phone you love in your pocket because of its look and feel and texture. And that trend will continue to draw those next generation buyers in. So does your experience match that expectation? Don't know. Really cool thing here, Starbucks, right? I can pay with this thing at Starbucks. So you've got affinity programs linked with payments, enabling things that I do every day to be even easier for me and secure. Because me putting money on the card happens outside of the banking transaction, none of my credit information is ever shared across any link, and yet I still get the product I want, and my information is secure. That hurdle is being figured out. So how do you get to this? NFC, near field, all of these things, they're everywhere. When I got my 1520, my Lumia 1520, I turned it on and I went to go in and turn on near field on it, and it was like, hey, you don't have near field on this device. And I'm like, what do you mean I don't have near field? How could I not have near field on the latest Halo device from this company? That's crazy. So I went and talked to one of the engineers at Windows Phone, and they said, no, it's in there. We just don't have it turned on right now because there's no actual need for it in that product. We don't have a use case for it. But it's cheaper for us to build it in right from the scratch than it is for us to try to retrofit something later. So it's all there. Lovely. I've met today's step goal, and we lost the game. Great. All right. So connected homes, all of these things, these are here today. Anybody have a Nest, that little thermostat? Right? Those things are game changers. All of the connected light bulbs, the fans that you have, all of these devices keep track of where you're at in your home, what your patterns of behavior are like. They feed information back to advertising systems like Google's AdWords system and enable advertisers to know when you are at your home and when you are in and on your computer, when you are most likely to respond to an actual advertisement. That is a huge, somewhat creepy step forward, but it's going to happen around us largely without us noticing it. And it also leads to really cool stuff like refrigerators that know when the milk is running low and can send you a text message while you're at the office before you get home. And then you can actually like text your son or daughter and say, did you just put the milk back in the fridge in an empty carton? And it allows that like super parenting thing to happen, you know? It's not super parenting, but it's pretty cool. So all of these areas exploded this year at CES. There are so many things that are connected now. I am personally looking for a connected toaster because I just, I want to be able to make toast remotely. No real reason, but I've got so much junk in my house. Anybody buy glass? I bought glass. I got so much junk in my house that's pointless, Google announced this week that they're shutting down the glass program. So we're kind of out in the cold with it. But eventually that technology will come back. This first run was literally to introduce the idea to society to see what would happen. And that introduction resoundingly brought us the glass hole. And so society said, no, thank you to this version. Eventually we'll get there though. If you're my age, you were playing Atari when you were a kid, and you never really wanted to tell anybody because while it was cool, only other cool kids with Ataris got it. Everyone else looked at you like you were some kind of alien. Well, today it's literally a career option to be a gamer. That's the type of change that we see happening. So that's mine. I'm just trying to see, what do we got here? We got a couple of minutes left. Do you guys have any questions? These 18-minute slots go like super fast. Does anyone have any questions? Anything at all? None. Does anyone have the final score of the game? What? Okay. Are you people looking at the same game? Okay, we're going to the question in the front here because that might be relevant, so let's do this. So what would be an example of how to capitalize on some of this stuff? So the first thing is understanding which of these technologies are actually moving forward. So before you can capitalize on any of these ideas, you actually have to have someone in your business who's paying attention to what the trends are. Because by the time the trend pops up and it's news, heaven forbid you find it on CNN. If you find it on CNN, you're about 6 months too late. But if you're paying attention to those things along the way, you'll be able to understand what's going to move fast and first. I mentioned Scully and Drum Pants in here. I've been to the startup in San Francisco where both of them are based. I've seen both of them in action. I have a feeling which is going to go further. And that's simply based on getting to know the company and getting to know their focus. I also have a different view on which one could actually go further, because there are applications they haven't thought of yet. So there are a couple of ways to go forward. You could identify something that you think is pretty cool, that is likely to catch on, come up with a new way it could be used, approach the business and say, hey, have you thought about doing this with the business? We would like to be a partner with you in that. So that puts you in at the ground level, moving the concept forward. It's a big risk, but it's also the one with the biggest payoff on it. The flip side to this is the more simple version, which is as mobile advertising actually becomes more viable and we actually have these systems in place where we are in self-driving cars, we do have these things going on, making certain that you're already a player in those systems, that you understand how they work when they're launched to be able to target that user. And this is the critical point. You don't just target the user because you think they're sitting still and will see your message. That message has to be useful to them in some way, because these same users are still going to have their phone in their pocket and can still go play Sudoku on their phone and ignore the advertising. But if you are useful to them in whatever it is they're trying to accomplish, and don't kid yourself, the ad systems will be trying to nail this every step of the way. I know at Bing we are very careful about where we show ads, how we show ads, the data that we show to an advertiser to help them make decisions, time of day, location, down to zip code, down to streets. That filtering is hugely important for the business to be accurate in their spend and to be successful. So there's a lot of opportunity with it, a lot of unknown opportunity right now as well. It's a little tougher because it is future. If, however, you're looking at some of the certain bets that we have, like wearables, you can bet your bottom dollar that the first movers that have things in place, like the Starbucks of the world, that provide something useful, those are going to be there long term. The Starbucks process right now is a little kludgy. Like, I actually have to go to a Starbucks and give them my money. That's like an added trip or something I have to remember when I'm there, and I don't think of it. And I never carry cash on me, so now it's another transaction that I have to do. And you still get that. I walked in last week and I asked for a latte and I said, I want to pay with my band. And the girl looked at me and she goes, I don't understand. I'm like, I'm sorry, how do you not understand this? It's your company that's fronting all this. And I walked away from it because they didn't know what to do, and there was a lineup forming behind me. So I didn't want to be a glass hole, so I moved along. Anybody else? I mean, I know the door is open, and we're going to get booted shortly, but... And any questions, even if it's off this topic, is okay. Doesn't really matter to me. Okay, well then I guess I'm going to release you guys. It was like the fastest 18 minutes of my life. Wow. Thanks, guys.